question. I see that people in America maybe can think of UBI well because they see that we're in this time where the economy is doing relatively well, but the inequality is growing. How different do you think UBI would look in a time of economic recession or depression?
Well, economically, UBI is really good for that because a UBI system is an automatic stabilizer. UBI itself is not an automatic stabilizer because everybody gets it. However, you have to look at it in combination with the taxes that finance it. So when we go into recession, people are making less income, so they're paying less taxes, but they're getting the same basic income. So the amount they pay goes down, the amount they receive stays the same, and that means that there's net bigger redistribution whenever there's a recession. And when you have that, economists call that an automatic stabilizer. It makes the recessions not as bad as the other ones were. It also helps to prop up wages, because when you have a recession, one of the things that happen is wages stop growing and even decline because people are out there competing even harder for the jobs. People are less likely to accept a pay cut in a recession. So in that sense, it has a lot of really good effects. And really, the most important reason to not want to be in a recession is poverty. And basic income, if it's high enough, will eliminate poverty, so we shouldn't care that much. When we have a recession, a big recession would be if our output goes down by 5%. Well, we're one of the richest countries in the world. And we have more than who actually really gives a crap if our income goes down by 5%. That's the worst thing that happens to you. If I look at what's going to happen in the rest of my life, once in a while my income is going to go down by 5%, but every other year it's going to go up for 3%. And I'm going to be twice as well off in 40 years. I'm like, okay, I'll take the occasional 5% dip. I'll barely even notice it because I'll be saving a lot of that money. I'll barely notice it. But I guess as Umar was saying, we're one of the richest countries in the world. We shouldn't really be caring about that. The only reason we should be caring about whether we're in recession is because, our response as a people to recession is you guys live in abject poverty and the rest of us will go on living great. That's why recessions are a problem. So really, recessions aren't even a problem anymore if we have basic income.
Over here, and then we'll go to
So I hadn't heard about universal basic income about 2 months ago, and after looking a bunch about it, one thing that I saw that it seems to be necessary, not only like in the future when income, gets further apart, but also today to allow capitalist markets to actually function. Similar to like antitrust, which isn't capitalist, but it allows those markets to function. I'm just curious if you had any thoughts or commentary on that, like nature of UBI.
I'm sorry.
It's like if you don't have enough people with money and purchasing power to actually allow person-to-person transactions, those markets start breaking down. And I think we're already kind of seeing that. So universal basic income almost seems like a function that needs to be put in place to allow that to happen. At least that was my perspective of it.
We need to put UBI in place for what?
Just to allow our capitalist markets to actually function in their actual appropriate manner, similar to an antitrust law.
That's part of the argument. That's part of the argument of being an automatic stabilizer, and Theodore Roosevelt was talking about things like that in the Great Depression, about what he was saying. He was priming the pump, Andrew Yang is now talking about it as a trickle-up economy, and it is much better if we have things trickling up. And the idea, if it makes any sense to have rich capitalist investors, it's because they're investing things that people want. But if the people don't have any money, they're just going to invest in things that other rich people want, or worse than that, they'll just buy up assets and make it more expensive for us to get housing. because they just bid up the price of all the real estate in the country. So yeah, I think capitalism works a lot better with a basic income. And whether you should even call it capitalism if you're not forcing people to participate anymore, that's up to your sense of definition, but market economy, whatever you call it.
Okay, we're going to take 2 more questions, and then we're going to have kind of informal, and if you want to chat with Karl and ask more questions, feel free. Blaze is next, and then we'll end on this note here. We'll do 3 questions, because we'll be back.
All right, there are so many things that I would love to pick your brain about, but I'll ask what I think is perhaps the most important question, because in Louisiana we face an existential threat from climate change. Do you see any potential for UBI to positively impact the problems we're facing because of climate change?
Well, first of all, I'm really glad that people are starting to care about climate change. However, I would rank climate change actually about 5th on our list of existential environmental threats. We've had climate change before, massive changes in climate, and it's caused a lot of extinctions, but it's never caused the death of everything. Fukushima could be causing the death of everything right now. So I would just Fukushima alone, not to mention the rest of nuclear power, which nuclear power is the cleanest energy there is as long as humans never make mistakes. Then it's the worst energy there is. And so Fukushima alone, I think, is worse. Plastics in the oceans, plastics in the groundwater, other toxins in the groundwater, the oxygen depletion of the oceans caused by our fertilizers and other things. Just basic loss of habitat. Which could already, it seems we're already in the insect apocalypse and the amphibian apocalypse, and still we're not wising up to this. So we're living through general environmental collapse, and we're just barely getting to talk about climate change. Now, basic income doesn't do anything directly for that basic income alone, but does a lot of things indirectly, can be an important part of the strategy. Because when I was talking about earlier, I was saying the idea of basic income, as I see it, is you pay for the resources you use, you get paid for the resources that everybody else uses, and this should include an overcharge for things that are bad for the environment. So, for anything that pollutes, causes global warming, you should be paying not the profit-maximizing amount, but way more than the profit-maximizing amount to really discourage this. And that means, so when you're getting more in basic income than you're paying, you should be proud of that. Look, what a good job I'm doing as a steward of our environment. That's why I get to consume the services provided by you guys, the polluters. Because I'm polluting less than you are. I'm not flying around on my private jet or whatever. So it can be used as part of that kind of strategy. It can also cushion people. If you're saying, okay, we're not going to have coal anymore because it's so horrible for the environment, but the coal workers are going to be taken care of, not at a really minimal level, but hopefully at a better level because we have a really high and generous basic income. So in those indirect ways, I think it's an important part of a really good environmental strategy, overall environmental strategy, not just climate change.
Here, then we got one in the back.
So, earlier you mentioned that group of people, I think you said the 1820s, they're so despondent after losing their jobs, they essentially had to become like servants, just so that they wouldn't die. So my question is, in 2019, with all the advancements in technology and everything this culture has created, is mobility between job industries greater than it was back then, right? So, and then that kind of curtails on my next part of that question, which is, Andrew Yang always mentions the truck drivers, 3.5 million truck drivers, average age 49, ex-military, chronic background. What are those people going to have an easier time doing a drastic industry shift, just to have a job with maybe a similar wage than somebody would have had 200 years ago? And with that being said, using the truck drivers as an example, what would be the most optimistic or rosy outcome for them, say 10 years from now, at least 1 or 2 million lose their jobs. We do have a UBI. What would those truck drivers be doing, in your opinion?
Well, it depends how old they are and what other skills they are, and those are the things I can identify now, but it also depends on a bunch of on what changes are next to this economy that I can't foresee. So part of that, I really can't foresee. But the younger you are, the more other skills you have, the more you're going to be able to retrain and readapt and do other stuff. But if you're my age, I'm 54, if I'm a truck driver and I'm losing my job, and that's what I studied all my life, that's what I specialized in, I'm unlikely to get one of those maybe new chauffeur jobs that's going to be opening up in my field. Maybe the head of a trucking company will need a chauffeur. I'm unlikely at my age, I'm unlikely to be able to retrain for something. A few people even in their 50s or 60s will, but a lot won't. And if our pension system or our basic income is generous enough, that is not a problem. Because work, and when we say work in this country, we mean taking a job, and we mean taking orders. So going in somewhere and taking orders. Work, in that sense, is not the only fulfilling and good thing you can do with your life. If you have a generous basic income or a generous pension, you can find your own work, your own meaningful contribution that doesn't involve taking orders from somebody, and find something you find to give meaning for your life. And I think a lot of people will find that on their own. They shouldn't have to. If you're a certain age, you shouldn't feel like you have to go on. When Thomas Paine is often credited with being the originator of basic income. He wasn't. It was actually somebody responding to him named Thomas Chance, who has the oldest known true basic income. He wanted a coming of age grant so you could get started, and then a pension, and he started his pension at 55. So you work for 30, 40 years, you don't need to keep working at 55. Well, we've edged that up to 65, now going in the 70s. Maybe we should be telling people, if you want to retire at 55, that's okay. We appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Carl. I have difficulty with universal basic income. Is that I just can't see where it fits.
Yeah.
So you talk a lot about the endemic injustice in the present system. You talk about control of property. You talk about the redistribution of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about all these things which universal basic income would solve.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, you also said that, people are coming, that basic income, people are coming from different angles on basic income. So are you saying that they're coming from it from different political, left and right? And what I don't understand is why is it that politicians who seem to be on the right of center tend to be attracted to basic income and not politicians, and I don't understand all the economics of it, and I know it's incredibly complex, but why don't we hear politicians on the left of center talking about UBI?
Well, actually, most of the politicians who talk about basic income are so far left of center that you don't hear about them. The Green Party in the United States has had basic income in its platform every year since the 1990s, every presidential election since the 90s. The Green Party in the UK supported it, had been supporting it since the 70s. Then they got closer to power, and they dropped it. To be,
That makes sense.
yes, to get closer to the mainstream. Die Linke Party in Germany, which is German for the left, the head of Die Linke had this is the greatest quote about basic income, which translates to the old left wanted to control the means of production. The new left wants control over our lives. And that's so important, because having one vote in a whole society where that controls the means of production really doesn't solve the problems I was talking about. You have to go to the people who control resources. And the privileged people always control the dialogue, and they have self-serving bodies. So being in a socialist economy but with a work requirement doesn't guarantee that you're going to have any greater control over your life than you are in a market economy that has all of this. So there is a very substantial left support. If you look at a lot of the support that brought on this wave of basic income support that we've been seeing grow for the last 5 or 10 years, that's been driven by a lot of people that are very much left of center. The right-wing argument for it tends to be like, well, let's get rid of the welfare system and then just replace it with basic income. And that is not popular with the basic income movement in the world today.
That's what I really wanted to know as well. All right, next.
Well, I think this will probably conclude some of our remarks this evening. Let's all thank Karl for coming. What he's going to say in New York.
But wait, I do have one question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you support Andrew Yang?
Yeah, it was, yeah, I actually, that was kind of a weird one for me, because there are some, I have some reservations about Yang, which is that he doesn't include children in the basic income, when the children of single mothers are the poorest people in the country, and that's the worst time in your life to be poor. That creates costs for you and for society for the rest of your life. No amount of money when you're an adult can make up for that. So that I have a problem with. I don't think that the VAT is the best way to finance it. I think the VAT can be part of an overall progressive system, but I don't think it's a necessary part. And I don't like his support of nuclear power. However, well, there's always one thing, is that I have a really hard time not endorsing somebody who's endorsed me. I mean, one of the first things he did, he put out like a campaign ad with my picture on it and a quote of me. And I'm like, you think this is going to help you become president? And then I wouldn't quote me if I was her. You know, and then he also called me one of the godfathers of the basic income movement. I met him and he was really nice, and I asked him, and I was also with Almaz Zalecki, who was the most like radical pro-mother feminist, pro-single mother feminist in the basic income movement. And I was with her when I met her, and so she's my conscience on the child issue, and she was as charmed by it as much as I was. And it was really cool meeting him. And we asked him about this, and he said, his answer was, I needed a program that was costed, and this one was fully costed, and so I had to go to and the thing is, if you listen to him talk, you know, if you read his book, and I've reviewed his book, but we've not reviewed his book, it's a very positive review. He understands the kind of arguments that I make for basic income, and he sympathizes with them. And he understands the real problems that people in this country are having. People, at the low end of the income distribution. He understands these kind of problems, and he cares about them. So, yes, I endorse Andrew Yang. As a matter of fact, I've been meaning to, for the last 9 months, I've been meaning to write an essay of for the basic income movement. Should we endorse the guy who endorsed us? And I'm going to argue yes. I haven't had the time. Right? I just sat down to write it, and I ended up writing something else. But hopefully I'll write that sooner or later. But yes, I do support Andrew.
Is Andrew Yang going to be in the basic
No, he's not. Where is he then? Is the march going to come again? It's opening up in a new city like every day.
Yeah, he is. I think the latest I heard is he's going to do something like the day after London March, and it's like a scheduled fundraising, multiple fundraising.
It'll be surprising.
in a different city.
All right, so now we go to,
Well, yeah, so I just want to make a couple more remarks. Please remember the donation link. We're going to be sending that out. Also, if you can, check out the the Baton Rouge Yang Gang on Facebook and Twitter. Remember, we're going to be having events next month, and we'll be disseminating those dates. Scott's going to be our next speaker, and we're also going to be having a text banking event at Leah's home in Holy Cross. Please come out and join us. And again, if you're interested in some of Carl's work, most of it's up for free on the Basic Income Earth Network. So,
I just want to say one thing too.
What's up? Yeah.
So I just want to tell everybody too, I brought a bunch of these books. So if you want a book, these are free. Just take one. This is written by Andy Stern, and this is the book basically that inspired Gang Run. And I got a bunch of these cards too, that like debit cards. They look like debit cards, but they're the Andrew Yang cards too. Take some of these. These are all around here.
Are these for free?
Yes, Scott's giving them away.
That's really important announcement, really important. Okay, so I don't know if all of you heard, but Saturday there was a gubernatorial election and the incumbent Governor John Bell Edwards did not take the winning position. So we have a runoff on November 16th. The deadline to register to vote is October 25th. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me about his positions, about Eddie Rasponi, his opponent's positions. Again, October 25th is the deadline to register to vote. And if you're interested in voting for Andrew Yang in the primary, register Democrat, because if you are not a registered Democrat, you cannot vote in the Democratic primary. Please ask me about Governor Edwards, and have a good night.
One more plug. Basic Income March. We're going to try and get something together for New Orleans on the 26th. If you're interested in it, it's going to be a small demonstration, but we're trying to get as many people out as possible and make us the 24th city participating in that activity. So holler at us on Facebook. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.